This week on the show, this is no ordinary cellar door.
No.
I'm in Switzerland, going bonkers for bunkers.
Oh wow, look at this. It's right in the middle of this massive complex, isn't it? And you'd never know if you're just driving through.
Sightseeing non-stop.
Absolutely spectacular mountain views.
On a train, breaking new ground.
This is where the magic happens.
And up high in the Alps.
Up here, it's peaceful. The views, you don't get this out of an aeroplane window.
Hello and welcome to the travel show, coming to you this week from Switzerland, or more specifically, the International Balloon Festival in the Swiss Alps. We'll be taking a bird's eye perspective on that later on. But in the meantime, let's head to Zurich for something a little more underground.
I'm on a journey from Switzerland's capital, beginning with a drive 2 hours southwest. Because I've heard that all around this country is a vast network of bunkers, some of which are open for travellers to explore. Among them are old military forts, which you can still see hidden in the mountainside.
Glorious view.
If you have a sharp eye.
So I've been given a pin that tells me that there's a bunker basically here somewhere. It's camouflaged, so there's going to be a trick actually finding it. I mean, this stretch of mountainside just does look like every other stretch of mountainside for miles in either direction, so hopefully we are in the right place.
Of course, you shouldn't search for military bunkers that might still be in use, but what I'm looking for is something else. In recent decades, some of the bunkers have been sold off and made into everything from hotels to high-security data centres. I'm told this one houses a local delicacy.
How well camouflaged is it going to be is the question. How can I actually find it? This very much looks like solid rock. Is there an entry point? Oh, crafty! Look at this! Look at this. Camouflage door. Wow, that is awesome. You would not, I mean, I was probably 20 feet away and didn't notice that. That's awesome. Look at this. Hello?
Oui, il y a
Oui,
quelqu'un?
bonjour.
Bonjour, bonjour. Bonjour.
Bonjour, je suis Christa.
Enchanté, Michel. Voilà, le
Oh,
fort.
look at this. So, why is this full of cheese?
Alors, je cherchais une cave pour affiner mes fromages et j'ai fait connaissance à un ami qui est de l'administration militaire. Et puis là, j'ai eu l'occasion d'acheter ces forts. Et puis quand j'ai vu l'humidité et la température qu'il faisait à l'intérieur, pour moi, c'était idéal, quoi. C'est pour ça que je mets mes fromages ici, quoi. Et puis ça fait le fromage, alors on l'appelle le fromage des forts.
Michelle bought this bunker in 2004 and recently started offering tours.
On va couper le fromage, là, tac.
There are thought to be many thousands of these in the country.
C'est magnifique, hein, là. Ici, comme c'est pas très chaud, il s'affine doucement et puis il donne tous les arômes. C'est pour ça que c'est très très bien le fort pour affiner les fromages. C'est un parfum, c'est extraordinaire. Hein?
Oh, that's
Excellent,
lovely.
Donc,
C'est bon, très bon.
C'est bon.
Ouais, ouais.
Mais avec un verre de chasselas vaudois, c'est l'extase.
Gorgeous.
For hundreds of years, Switzerland has remained famously neutral during conflicts. And staying neutral has involved taking precautions. So from the 1880s and stepping up during World War II, these bunkers helped to keep out potential invaders.
On va se trouver dans une pièce où il y a le canon. Voilà.
Oh, look at this.
Hein?
Wow.
Là. Tu vois?
This is a great spot to get a sense of the strategy behind this place, because Michelle was telling me this is the only road to go into this region, and that used to be covered by a big anti-tank gun that used to be stationed here. So this is like prime position right here.
Today though, bunkers here are far from just a thing of the past. In fact, one company here has begun offering its Swiss bunker experience for the world's wealthy, with prices starting at $10 million each. And today's bunkers aren't just for the ultra-rich. Since the Cold War, a policy has been in place stating that every Swiss resident must have access to a bunker, either within their own building or in a public shelter, in most cases within a 30-minute walk. So I've reached out to a local resident to show me something in her cellar
You must be a beer.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
that's really not unusual here at all.
This way to the bunker, I guess.
Yeah, it's just here.
Look at this door.
I know, right? I think that even myself, I can't really pull it. It's quite thick. I think it's concrete, and this one you can basically close it from inside in case of emergency.
I mean, this is no ordinary cellar door.
No, it's not. And you can see that the cellar is basically split in two parts. So you have like the bunker with some shelter inside that I'll show you.
Lead the way, let's have a look.
Abir moved to Switzerland 3 years ago from France and shares this bunker with the residents of the other 6 apartments in her block.
And then you have here all the, like half of the apartments, food stock and like other supplies.
So these are like survival supplies for the bunker,
so
or is
it's
this
not-
used
it's-
for general storage?
No, it's for general storage, so it's not mandatory like to keep, it's just recommended to keep some supply. I don't do it. But you can see that here, for example, you have some neighbors that have some food supply.
What was your reaction when you first moved into the apartment and they were like, oh, by the way, downstairs there's a bunker?
Yeah, I was actually amused and surprised when I first moved in like a few years ago. Like I didn't think about like in case of emergency what can happen, but since COVID and since also like Ukraine war that is like at the door of Europe, right? You never know what can happen.
In the city of Luzerne, what was built as the largest shelter in the world lies hidden in the heart of the city.
This kind of looks like any old tunnel you might find in Europe, but we're in Switzerland, so you might be forgiven for suspecting something else is going on. And this one is special. It's part of a huge bunker system that was designed to accommodate 20,000 people in the event of an emergency. They just slam shut big blast-proof doors at either end of the tunnel, and suddenly this stretch of road becomes a 1.5 kilometre long shelter.
Surrounding the tunnel is a vast 7-floor structure with all the facilities that might be needed in the event that the bunker is activated. Today, its capacity is reduced to 2,000 people, with regular tours available.
What kind of things might people use this for today?
Still armed conflicts. It could be a conventional war, it could be a nuclear warfare, biological, chemical, or just a natural disaster when people lose their home due to avalanches, mudslides, floods, for instance.
It's basically just a useful resource that's there to be used for whatever you need it
Yes,
for.
technically you're supposed to have food stocks ready at home for 2 weeks. That's the maximum duration of stay you have to be prepared for in the beginning.
We're 4 levels underground here, but you wouldn't know it with this big space, which would have been used for up to 700 staff that would have looked after 20,000 people down in the tunnels if it had been used. They really thought about everything though, because you've even got prison cells where if there were some troublemakers, they could be brought up here, you know, locked up away from the main population. Oh wow, look at this. This is the road we came in on right here. It's right in the middle of this massive complex, isn't it? And you'd never know if you're just driving through. Wowee. Very cool. And noisy too.
Ever since the war started in the Ukraine, I've been getting calls and emails from people asking me, can you please tell me what I have to do if this gets closer?
Wow, and that's Swiss people, not
Swiss
people from outside saying, how do
Swiss
I build a
people,
bunker?
Mostly elderly people, so this just shows how massive that threat must have been back in the 60s and 70s when these measures were taken, and how those recent events bring up those fears again.
That place is an amazing place to visit. Just the scale of it, there's 7 floors under the ground. But I think what's most interesting for me is really what it says, a place like this, about this country and its mindset, and really what it takes to remain neutral in such a conflict-ridden world. I think there must be also something quite reassuring for a Swiss person to know that all of this energy and ingenuity has been expended in the event of an emergency to keep you safe, for a couple of weeks at least. And if you're thinking of heading to Switzerland anytime soon, here are some travel show tips to help you plan your trip.
Close to where we met Michelle is the town of Interlaken. Situated between 2 lakes, this town is home to year-round alpine adventures with plenty of activities for adrenaline seekers. It offers panoramic views of the Swiss Alps and easy access to popular ski and hiking resorts in the winter, as well as the opportunity to try canyoning, paragliding, skydiving and bungee jumping in the summer. If you're thinking of using public transport, buying a Swiss travel pass can be a cost-effective way of getting around. It'll give you unlimited travel across the Swiss travel system, like the excellent train network, which is frequent, reliable and a great way of seeing the country. For many travelling to Switzerland, the Matterhorn is a must. The mountain's striking pyramid shape has drawn serious climbers for years. But to get close to its peak, you don't have to work up a sweat. The Gornergratbahn, also known as the Matterhorn Railway, is the highest open-air railway in Europe, offering views of the Matterhorn from the peak of nearby Gornergrat. And if you're coming here in summer, there's still plenty to enjoy. The annual Montreux Jazz Festival kicks off at the end of June and lasts for 2 weeks. It began in 1967, focused on jazz, but now features a wide range of musical acts, including blues, rock, pop and hip-hop, attracting 200,000 visitors. It's known for its iconic setting on Lake Geneva and its long history of hosting top musical talent from around the world. This year's programme will be unveiled in the spring.
Still to come on the travel show.
You know when you take off, you never know where you land and when you land.
I try a balloon festival like no other in the Swiss Alps.
This word gets used a lot, but there's something quite magical about being up here.
Switzerland isn't short of an impressive train ride or two. Offering views of the snow-capped Alps, the latest is the Golden Pass Express. And it's got a surprising secret.
I'm travelling between Interlaken and Montreux, and it's fair to say the main draw card of this journey is what's outside the window. These absolutely spectacular mountain views. But this train itself is actually really interesting, and it's all to do with, this is technical, so bear with me, the rail gauges. That's the distance between the rails.
In 1916, this awe-inspiring route was completed, connecting Montreux on Lake Geneva to the vibrant city of Lucerne. Travellers could ride in style through the beautiful Bernese Alps and witness some of the most stunning scenery in the world. But for years, passengers had to get off and change trains mid-journey to accommodate for when the rail gauges change, not just to a different width, but also a different height. But now travellers can make the entire journey on just one train, thanks to some clever engineering.
What can I see here?
That's the gauge changing installation.
So this is the point where...
This is the point.
Okay.
This is where the magic happens.
So we go from a wider gauge.
On the weight of the carriages are taken on small wheels on the side of the carriages, and that allows the bogies to change gauge.
So how long did this project take? Was it something you could do fairly quickly?
The first idea to make the link between the two regions is from 19th century, so very, very old, and the first prototype is from 2008. It's 12, 14 years later and we have a train. Yes.
So you must feel very proud to have achieved this difficult
Yes,
thing.
we're very proud of it. It's something unique and it functions. And yes, we can be proud. We can't hide that we are a bit proud of it. Yes.
Quite right too.
Now I've travelled to the Chateau d'Eu. Set among the beautiful Swiss Alps, once a year this small town brings hot air balloon enthusiasts from around the world for a festival like no other. Each morning of the 9-day festival, the pilots gather for a briefing from the organisers.
Yesterday is the wind. The winter is picking up at all levels. It's picking up as we speak. There's too much wind.
I've just popped into the pilots briefing for all of the hot air balloon pilots. I did gather, mostly from the faces of the pilots listening to the briefing, that perhaps the weather conditions aren't exactly perfect for the festival, so fingers crossed things improve.
But all hope isn't lost. I've been told that over the 9 days, organisers hope for at least 5 days of good flying weather, and some days with bad weather are still good for partial flights. Balloon pilot Nick Dunnington has been coming to this festival from the UK since he was a child, and he's offered to take me up later.
So Nick, what's the status? Everyone seems a little bit tense.
Yeah, so they've given us the clearance to fly this morning, but the winds above the tops of the mountains are actually quite strong. So we have to stay within the valley, and the winds are going to actually drop. The quicker winds are going to speed up throughout the day and drop down into the valley. So we need to be flying early and landing early.
For a complete novice, tell me what is it just obvious that if there's too much wind, the balloon will be uncontrollable?
There's a lot of that. It's not that it's uncontrollable. It means that the landing will be faster, so you need a bigger space in which to land the balloon. So not ideal.
That suggests this is quite a challenging place for this event to take place.
It is, yes. Yeah, it's not the easiest, but I think that's what attracts most of us here is the challenge. So.
The festival began over 40 years ago and has grown from just a few balloons to the 60+ balloons they have coming today. Back when it started, it was the idea of founder Charles-André Ramsier.
We started ballooning here in '76, and ballooning in the Alps was brand new. Nobody was doing it. I had seen balloons in US, but in the Alps it's a new dimension. A basket in the sky is like a balcony in the sky. It's a dream. It's beautiful. You know where you take off, when you take off. You never know where you land and when you land.
Yeah, this is what I understood this morning, listening to the pilot briefing. Small changes, that wouldn't affect many other leisure activities have such a big impact with the hot air balloons.
Yes. And what you have to know that every season is different to fly. That's why if you want to be a good pilot, you have to fly every week. Otherwise, you are a bad pilot.
With some balloons starting to take to the skies, I join Nick in the basket.
Oh, wow.
And within just a few seconds, we are whisked high up into the air.
Nick, can you tell me what you're doing? I mean, there's been all sorts of things going on.
Yeah, so at the moment all we're doing is keeping the balloon nice and level. So we're putting in little bits of heat every now and again to keep the buoyancy up in the balloon.
So tell me a little bit about the specific challenges of a landscape like this.
So obviously Up on the side of the mountains, there's a lot of snow, a lot of trees, but not a lot of roads. So you're having to land as close to a road as possible to make the retrieval of all the kit easy. The mountains also produce a different climate, so there can be a lot different wind patterns and things that develop around the mountains.
It seems to be almost a lifestyle, this passion for ballooning. What is it that you love about ballooning?
Very much so. I mean, it's the tranquility as well. Up here, you know, aside from the helicopter, it's peaceful. There's nothing. And, you know, the views, you don't get this out of an aeroplane window. And there's a really big sense of community around ballooning. You know, it is a niche sport, I suppose, and we're all of similar ilk, I suppose.
This word gets used a lot, so bear with me, but there's something quite magical about being up here. Usually when you're at this height, you're either, you know, on a parasail with wind, you know, in your face, or in a plane or a helicopter, the thrum of the engine and the rotor. And up here it's silent. And there's barely a stir of wind. And it's just like we're sort of on a platform in the middle of the air with this incredible view out over the mountains. I think there's also something that appeals to the romantic in me, really just sort of harking back to the earliest days of air travel, you know, the balloon setting off around the world in 80 days. There's something really special about this. Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's programme, but coming up next week,
we're looking back at some of our best bits from the last few months, including Eva's encounter with a slippery customer in Mexico.
Oh my god, it's so smooth, it's so lovely. Oh, this is so incredible.
Addie's hunt for art thieves in Italy.
Wow, it's beautiful. It looks incredible.
And my big splash in an Estonian bog.
absolutely freezing cold, but I mean, what a setting. So do join us then if you can, and don't forget you can catch up on some of our recent adventures on BBC iPlayer. And until next time, from me and all the rest of the Travel Show team here in Switzerland, it's goodbye.